morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel L. Connon. Welcome to Premarket Info.
Well, it's been a good weekend here for the Tigers and also for the market because the market is rallying this morning. Citigroup also beat earnings, and that's trading up a little bit here in the pre-market. Tomorrow we've got some key reports from Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, and IBM. We're going to break down the technicals on all of those stocks, plus many more components of your S&P. This market here bouncing again this morning. We keep getting to the low 1420s, and we keep bouncing.
Yeah, they did take it through Friday's low, which was the weekly low during the night session. Took it under 1420 to 1416.50. But all the traders that got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning started doing some buying here. We're currently trading at 1429, up 7.5, and don't see much major resistance up until we get to Friday's high at 1434.50.
Yeah, I'm looking here though too. Yeah, that 1434.50 and multiple highs right up there, and then obviously the day before that you had a spike up high to just under 1439. So call the mid 1435s. That's the area I'm looking where we might run into trouble again, where we ran into trouble Friday, and we thought we might run into trouble there Friday and start to get weak. It's exactly what we did. Apple was interesting though. It's kind of just had its own thing going on. It was up a bit, down a bit, and just kind of hung out all day.
Yeah, big anticipation of the mini iPad coming up. Friday's break could not get to 623 double, which was the low on Tuesday. So, hey, you're hanging above major support here. We thought there wasn't a V bottom, and we thought maybe about a W bottom here. So let's keep an eye on that 23 to 25 level. Currently, still a few points away from Friday's high. So we'll keep an eye on that as our first minor resistance level, 635.38. And you got to imagine with it trading this high, if it comes back anywhere near settlement, you'll find some pretty good support in Apple.
Google, though, had a pretty strong day until it just started rolling over there. Actually, on Thursday, on Friday. No, it started, I'm getting my days confused there. It was Thursday that it was strong, started rolling over, and then Friday it was weak. So I don't know if Google, I don't know what was happening there, but it fell about $7 in the last 2 hours of Friday's session. So starting to look a little bit weaker on the charts and not bouncing much this morning. It's down another dollar here in the pre-market.
Well, it's definitely distanced itself from Apple in the race to 1,000. Closed just off the low of the day. Boy, I tell you, we could talk about it more, but some of these tech stocks were really a mixed picture. This was on the downside, currently trading a little bit lower. Keep an eye on Wednesday's low at 738.29. If it takes that out, there's some room on the downside, perhaps to the 730 level. Coming back on the upside, minor resistance at Thursday's low, 750.29, and a little bit of major resistance at 754.87, which was Friday's high.
Well, the big stock today, Citigroup, had earnings here this morning, $1.06 against estimates of 96 cents. It is trading up 30 cents in the pre-market. But if we go back and look to last week's numbers, JP Morgan, remember, was trading higher, and then it started to get weak, and Wells Fargo obviously disappointed. So I always get a little bit scared. These things seem to bounce off the bat, and then sometimes they turn over and start to crater. So 35.15, it's up 40 cents here. What's the trade here, Joel?
Pre-market highs 35.47, so I would keep an eye on that level. Looking at Friday's range, you had a high at 35.65, so that whole area is going to be major resistance. If you can get through that area, the high of the move has been at 36.16. Looking at the low, the spike on the pre-market, I think someone had a little bit of a fat finger there. Took it down to 34.55, but immediately got a bounce. 34.66 was Friday's low. So far, Dennis, it really hasn't traded much out of the parameters from Friday's trading. So for traders looking for a breakout, either above Friday's high or below Friday's low.
Let's just talk about the Wells Fargo because that had a crazy sell-off, obviously, with their earnings on Friday. Got just below the support area that we had talked about. I talked about the support at 33.74. It actually got down to 33.65. I'm kicking myself a bit. I started buying this thing at 33.80. I bought more at 33.70. Started trading 33.65. I started to get itchy. It bounced up a little bit at 33.80, and then I decided to dump. So I actually scratched the trade. I shouldn't have did that because the rally kept coming. So I had the number right. I just couldn't take the 15 cents of heat. It actually rallied about 45 cents after I sold it, so I was kicking myself on Friday.
Yeah, it did. It came back down to all those lows that you had back in the end of August and early September. I mean, Wells Fargo is dealing with some fundamental news as well. The government is kicking up their heels regarding their mortgage process during the financial crisis, so that's weighing on the stock a little bit. Got a nice gap to fill here between Friday's high of 34.42 and Thursday's low at 34.07. So there'll be some stock to chew through there. I don't think you can really get too worried about this stock until it takes out that 33.65 with a little bit of positive Citigroup earnings. Probably leaning a little bit towards the long side on this one. Coming back down, I don't think you're going to see that 33.65 today. I think that whole number 34 may sneak into the picture over here over the next couple days.
Goldman Sachs reports tomorrow. That stock had a little bit of a weak day as some of those financials, like we said, were weak on Friday. It is bouncing a little bit here this morning. It's up a buck probably with the Citi numbers, 120, 125. But here's a stock that obviously has had a heck of a run for the last 3 months, kind of hanging out here and holding the 120. I think it's kind of critical that it holds that. There is a double top potentially in place at 122.60 and 122.94. Those being the highs from yesterday or from 2 days ago and from back on September the 14th. But if we start to trade above that 122.94 and take that out, it really starts to open up.
Yeah, we were talking about this stock in the middle of last week, basically like the relative strength. I mean, when when the market sold pretty hard last week, and Goldman just really did not give up the rock at all. You have to notice that when a stock won't go down, when the overall market's going down, and then the market turns around and rallies. A lot of times the relative strength will work to your favor. But this stock is looking at that double top there at right around the 123 area. You break above that, your next major resistance point would be at the high that you had back in March at 128.72. I don't know. It just feels like the street's anticipating some good earnings out of Goldman.
I kind of think so too. I don't know why I've got that in my brain, but I think they're going to beat too. But that's just my own thoughts on it. But if they do beat and start taking out that 123, it could get a little bit of a pop. So, I mean, the earnings from the banks so far have been pretty decent. J.P. Morgan reported pretty good numbers. Citigroup reported decent numbers here today. The Wells Fargo numbers weren't that bad, but they did beat up the stock on it just because the revenue was light. But overall, the numbers really haven't been that bad from the banks. So maybe Goldman can surprise us here too and beat. We do have a few other earnings tomorrow. Just we might as well talk about who's reporting. Johnson & Johnson's going to report tomorrow as well. Obviously, that stock is one we focus on quite a bit. This whole $70 level has just been major resistance. I actually call it all 69.80 really is where it's kept topping out at. You go back here into July, it topped out there, August, and now back in October topped out there again. So call the whole area 69.75 to $70 major resistance.
Yeah, and on the flip side here, after the Goldman sell signal last week, the stock took a little bit of a whooping, but really it's just gone down, a buck and a half. 67.80 and 67.86 are Thursdays and Fridays lows. Just kind of resting above that in the pre-market. I don't think you can get too excited about this stock on the short side until it takes out 67.80. Coming back on the upside, you had Wednesdays and Fridays highs at 68.49 and 68.51. So I think if they got earnings out tomorrow, I think people will be squaring positions at those two levels. Look for an inside day in Johnson & Johnson.
IBM's going to report after the bell tomorrow as well. It had a really strong day on Friday, was trading up. It was a weird day Friday. It had some stocks
Yeah.
trading down, some stocks trading up. It was really a stock picker's market there on Friday, which we've been seeing quite a bit lately, where some stocks just get a mind of their own. And IBM called maybe the pre-earnings March. I don't know what it was, but the stock was strong all day and closed strong too on Friday.
Yeah, that stock actually opened up right near the low of the day. It opened up at 205.64, 205.56. Ended up being the low of the day. Thursday's low, 205.63. After getting a rejection of those lows, it was straight up. Couldn't quite get to Wednesday's high, which was 208.23. But you do have Beamer opening up into resistance today. After that 208 level, really, there's a lot of air in this thing up to the mid 210s.
Coca-Cola is going to report there tomorrow as well. This $38 number has been absolutely huge on Coke. Actually flirting with it a little bit here this morning. It's trading down just on a downgrade. But the $38 is just a key level for this. If we look, we've bounced off here a couple of times in the last few days, and we're hanging out there again this morning at 38.10. I think it's critical it holds this 38.
Yeah, and then even you can't get too excited after it takes out 38 because you have a double bottom at 37.90 back from the end of September. Just an overall thought on this stock. I mean, when they whooped up on some of these defensive stocks last week, Coca-Cola did sell off, but it
Not much.
It surely did not take the shellacking of an AT&T
Yeah.
or Verizon. I guess people are going to drink Coca-Cola, whether there's a recession or election or whatever. They're going to drink Coca-Cola.
I like Coke too. I don't drink a lot of pop, and I had a Coke yesterday, and I was just saying, I was like, I said to my wife, I was like, this Coke, this is almost better than a beer.
No, you're fired.
Yeah, because I don't drink a lot of pop, so I'll have one maybe once every few weeks or something. And you taste it, you're like, man, this tastes pretty damn good. So, anyways, Coke though trade down a little bit on that downgrade. But
You might get kicked out of Canada
if
if
I say I don't like beer.
Coca-Cola better than beer, eh?
My friends would all beat me up anyways if they hear that, so don't tell my friends. AT&T obviously is just continues to break down since going ex-dividend. This is the most classic trade. I'm going to keep saying it's been 6 days, and it's 6 days straight down since it went ex-dividend. Opened that day at 38.29 on the day it went ex-dividend, and has been straight down since. I don't know when this thing's going to find some support.
Yeah, I mean, we anticipated it selling off a little bit after the dividend, but we surely did not envision this major sell-off. You have a series of lower highs, lower lows, and lower closes. And also, it did fill a gap that we had been talking about back in July. It had a gap up there. I think you just got to sit. Be patient. I certainly wouldn't be buying this thing on the offer running through the previous day's high. I would look to see if it can come back and maybe make it like a double bottom or a triple bottom here in this 30. I don't know. There's something tells me this 35.5 area is going to start to provide pretty good support. 35.40 was Friday's low. So if you're looking to purchase AT&T here, look maybe perhaps to get it on the cheap under 35.5.
Yeah, maybe if you're picking at it, pick it at an old low, so 35.40. If it takes out and makes a new low, though, I'd get out of it because this thing just seems to break down very quickly. Even on Friday, I found myself trying to pick a bottom on the thing too, and I had to get out in a hurry because it moves down. It spikes down so quickly sometimes. Right in the morning, it opened up there at 36. I think it was 36.15, and before I knew it was trading 35.90. So the thing can really trade fast, actually, especially in the first few minutes. So it just starts marching, and it seems to fall 15 or 20 cents in a minute or two, which is not normal for AT&T. But there is people that are just dumping the stock, and I don't know what the reasoning is behind it. If it's just because it doesn't have a dividend for another 85 days, I'm not sure. But definitely some value investors, some investors here that are not loving AT&T right now. So if it makes new lows, I think you got to get out. But if you want to keep trying to pick bottoms, that's the points. You want to have yourself a point. So 35.40 would be my point right now. Takes that out, look out below.
Yeah, and the Verizon chart doing the same.
Yeah.
That's funny that they go ex dividend on the same day. That stock has had a series of lower highs, lower lows, and lower closes. No gaps for it to fill really. Made a 44.59 low that coincides with the September 18th low at 44.45. So let's call that whole 44.50 area major support here. Maybe get a couple bottoms there and get a little bit of a rebound. But you got to figure eventually it's going to break this streak of six lower
But the
lows.
trend's your friend. When you're looking into trading,
Yeah.
these things do start to, when they start to have these trends, it's hard to just say, okay, this is the day it's going to break. You could have been saying that for the last 5 or 6 days now on AT&T and T and Verizon and been wrong every day and been under major heat. So you do have to remember, when you are trading, you always need to have an out, know where your out is. Don't get caught holding a stock for days hoping it comes back, because that's what happens is some people take this, they're like, oh, it'll bounce back, it's AT&T, and it doesn't, and all of a sudden, or it's Verizon and it doesn't, and all of a sudden you're down $2 or $3 on a stock that sometimes takes months to move $2 or $3. So it's crazy it's moved down there in 5 or 6 trading sessions, but I don't see this stock coming back in 5 or 6 trading sessions. It just doesn't do that.
Well,
So
it takes 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to go up
yeah,
4 or 5 points,
yeah.
but then you know in 5 or 6 days it can go down, and that's why when we were talking about over the last couple of weeks, there was in stocks like AT&T, Verizon, Chevron, ExxonMobil, you seeing gargantuan offers in the book, and they did get taken out. They did trade above those levels, but lo and behold, I mean, look at this Chevron Corporation now, 6 points away from 6.5 points away from its all-time
Yeah,
high.
in 3 days. So we hung out here for a month, making this whole island top thing happening up here, where we talked about this 118 level being absolutely enormous. It flirted up there, I don't know, 7 or 8 times, could not take it out. Eventually had earnings, or had the earnings warning. Was it earnings warning or earnings?
Yeah, it was.
Anyways, and then breaks down through the support area and then never has looked back. For 3 days, we've just been drifting down here. I mean, this chart doesn't look good. It's hard to be a buyer or something here when it looks completely broken like that. The ExxonMobil hasn't quite broken as much, but it doesn't look great either. So all these things look a little bit toppy. A lot of charts here, just looking overall, don't look that great, which isn't that good for the overall market. But it seems like this market always does whatever you think it's not going to do. So who knows? It's always just, if you're making trades, always know where your out is though, and don't get caught, because these stocks can start to break down in a hurry when they start to break down.
Talking about a stock with a mind of its own, Mr. Softy snuck under the $29 level for a couple days, but in a weak market, almost settled at its high of the day.
Yeah.
I just want to alert our traders to a potential triple top here in Mr. Softy. The last 3 days highs, 30, 29.31, 29 and a quarter, 29.32. Now, with the S&Ps up here 7 points, you are getting a pop in the pre-market. Have hit 29.39. So if you are playing this as breakout in Mr. Softy, which it never does, right? This thing just continuously fakes people out. Play close to the belt. If you're gonna, say, okay, it's breaking out here, and you buy it at 29.30 or 29.35, give it not much. Give it a nickel. Give it a dime, because if it doesn't hold here, it's probably gonna flop right back down under 29.
Overall market thoughts here just before we close the show. We've been down here in the 1420s for a few days now. We have been bouncing, but the bounces seem to not hold for very long. Today we made a low, and like you were saying earlier on, we made a low here in the pre-market, 1416 and a half. We have bounced 12 points from there here in the pre-market since the overnight low, but we're coming into this resistance area again.
Yeah, it seems like it. We've been selling off during the day and then having these quiet rallies overnight. Being up, exceeding the Globex higher, making a little bit of continuation, and then falling off. Today here, you're getting a nice pop. You're up You're up 7 points. Keep in mind we've already had nearly a 13-point range, and the average range for the S&Ps over the last 8 to 10 days has not been much over 15 points. So if you're playing this from the upside, gets another couple points out of it, and it stalls, beware. Coming back on the downside, you still have to use 1421.50, which was the close and Friday's lows, as significant numbers.
Well, that's our show for today. Have a great trading day, and we'll be back with you guys tomorrow.